Yes, well, it's good to see you all. It's good to be back again this week. I have a couple brief announcements. Let me see if I can get through them successfully here. I want to thank you all, especially those who have been generously supporting this webcast. I'd like to thank this week Marianne, Lisa, and Shauna, and Aaron, and many others, and of course Suzanne in the background for doing all of her hard work with the technology and help putting these videos up online. So thank you all for supporting the Sangha here. Of course, I'd also like to remind you I have a retreat coming up this month in San Diego, Encinitas. It's about 10 minutes away from the Yogananda ashram, the SRF temple. And so I really look forward to being out in San Diego here on April 25th. And so hopefully I'll be seeing some of you there. Some scholarships are still available. So if you can't afford the full price for the retreat, just shoot me an email and I'm sure there's a way we can get you in the door. One last thing, or actually two last things. I do have a newsletter, and oftentimes people email me and say, hey, Craig, I'd like to know more about what's going on with your events and, your offerings. And so please, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, please do. That way you can stay up to date on everything that we're doing. And so we do some, I try to do 3 or 4 retreats a year, but then also I try to do a lot of online stuff. So just so that we can meet with people all over the world, from the comfort of your home. And so every Wednesday night, I'm also offering a meditation class, which has been so powerful. And I've been really excited about that. And so please join us. For the people who've been coming every week, they have really been experiencing a profound transmission within their life that has been lasting, beyond just the meditations. And so join us for those Wednesday nights, 7 p.m., just like 7 p.m. on Sunday night for this. Okay, I think I did a good job there with all the announcements. So I'd just like to say hi to everyone, Regina and Marianne and Amy and Butch and let's see here, Amanda and Malcolm and Jonah, Barbara, Dawn, Pete, so many folks. So it's good to sit with you all. And then who else is here? Thane and Jake and Brad, Jocelyn, Ivy. Ivy's going to be joining us out for the retreat. I think Butch might be coming too. So, and Marianne. So looking forward to seeing you all. So I thought we might just take a couple minutes and just stop, like we do each week. And just give ourselves permission just to notice this spacious container. This spacious container that is the very space of awareness, very space of the mind. Simply to notice that there is something here that is awake, that is aware. Before thought, before emotion, there's this quiet presence right here, right now. If you'd like, you can close your eyes and just feel this quiet presence that you are. And just notice that there's something warm, vibrant, luminous. 'Cause. 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 ' don't have to do anything to create this. We don't have to go anywhere. But it's right here, right now. There is this awake, aware presence. It notices the sound of my voice. It notices the thoughts in your consciousness. And this awake, aware presence, it's already whole. It's already complete. There's nothing you can do to add to it or build upon it. You can even imagine that your very eyes are the eyes of God, looking out at the world. But what it's nice to do sometimes is to be the eyes of God and to look inward at yourself. And just notice this quiet perfection, this holiness and divinity. And of course, if you have a busy mind, you can notice that. But then I'm going to invite you to put that down, to let go of that. And just feel the hugeness of this space of awareness. And to notice that awareness is inclusive. Awareness doesn't push anything away. It does not fight. It doesn't argue. Now, your thinking mind may fight or argue. But awareness, especially as you allow awareness to wake up in your heart, it actually has this embracing nature, an inclusive nature. A loving nature. An unconditional nature. And so I invite you just to notice this. That there's something within you which is spacious, silent, awake, aware. And inclusive, like radically inclusive. The space of awareness does not push any thought away, doesn't push any feeling away. It silently embraces it. And there's been days when I've really struggled in life. And just because sometimes life is hard. It's okay to admit this. And I notice this very difficult thing just arising within the space of my consciousness. And then noticing simultaneously that there's something unconditional here that's allowing this painful thing to arise. It's allowing it. It's embracing it. It's willing to breathe more deeply. Wrap its arms around it in a loving way, compassionate way. And it's beautiful just to acknowledge this, the goodness of your nature. that what you are is fundamentally good. About an hour, maybe an hour and a half ago, I went out to dinner with my 5-year-old, Ani, and we were actually visiting my older daughter, who's just about 18 and who's working at the taco shop. And on our way out the door, Ani, she just looked at her older sister and said, "Goodbye, Maya. I love you. I love you." And my daughter, who's 18, she was kind of stressed out because it was a busy night at the taco shop. And the whole time, like, we were trying to talk to her, she was like just like kind of stressed and anxious because she had too many customers to take care of. And Amaya just heard the sweet sound of Ani saying, "I love you." And she just lit up and just smiled back and said, I love you too, Ganush. And we call little Ani Ganush. And it was just so sweet to see, the love in my heart. Saw the love in Ani's heart and saw the love in Amaya's heart. All of it was just lighting up. This is the unconditional space. The space that is awake and aware. If we weren't awake and aware, we wouldn't smile. We wouldn't really respond. We just respond from habit. My older daughter could have responded from habit. And just said, yeah, see you later. But when Ani said, "I love you, Amaya," Amaya's heart lit up, it smiled. And it responded with this quiet, intelligent phrase, "I love you, Ganush." I love you. And so the great question in life is, can we live? Can we live from this space of open-heartedness? This space of radical inclusivity? Or are we going to live from habit? It's very easy to live from habit. You don't have to think about anything. Just repeat what your father did or your mother did, what your culture does. You repeat the momentum of your mind. Oftentimes karma is referred to as this momentum. And so my older daughter, while she was at work and stressed out, her karma in that moment, her momentum was like stress, was anxiety, was, basically it was like this feeling of, I'm too busy to deal with you, Dad, and you, Ani, I'm too busy. That's kind of how she was. But when Ani looked at her and said, "I love you, Amaya," it stopped that karmic movement of Amaya, that Amaya had of busyness, of anxiousness, of worker bee-ness. And here in the United States, everyone's trying to be a good worker bee. And Ani even stopped my momentum. I was trying to hurry Ani out the door to get her home, to give her a tub and get her ready for bedtime so I could come see you all for this class. But see, Ani stopped the momentum of her father's busyness to rush her out the door and her older sister's busyness while she was working, and just said, "I love you. I love you." And so it's this willingness to live from this space of love. The funny thing is in the beginning of the spiritual path, it's much easier to live from habit. In the end, it's much more difficult. You see that living from habit is like living in hell. It's like living in hell, literally. Because you feel limited inside, you feel dead inside, you feel numb inside. And so it's beautiful. It's just this beautiful moment, with my daughters. And so I wanted to share something from Anna. Anna from the land down under there. She was writing to me about the inclusivity of the heart, the inclusivity of awareness. And she writes, I know for myself when the love that we are, excuse me, I know for myself when the love that we are, meets pain or resistance to what is here, it has no conditions. Yes, the love that we are, the depth of our being is unconditional. So true. So true. Yet if the love is laced with expectation or agenda, you can feel this. You can feel it. And a lot of people on the spiritual path know this type of love. Love that's laced with expectation or agenda. But see, true love has no agenda, no egoic agenda, no expectation. It's willing just to sit and to embrace and to be fully here, to be fully awake. And as she goes on to write, that this egoic love oftentimes, comes with the voice of I don't want this, or I should be like that. So many spiritual people on the path are thinking I should be like that. I should be like Adyashanti, or I should be like the Buddha, or whoever it is. But your true heart, if it does have an agenda, it wants you to be you fully. This was a great sense, it provided me a great sense of relief when I came to this realization. I can remember I was speaking with Adyashanti one day, and I told him, I said, I spent most of the spiritual path, most of my path trying to get rid of myself, trying to get rid of Craig the human being. And I came to a point where I stopped trying to get rid of myself. And I realized I really like myself. That this Craig character is not so bad. I fell in love with him and gave him permission to be him. And the beautiful thing is when you give your human self full permission to be itself, it starts to come into very close alignment with your true nature. But when you're resisting your human self manifests a huge degree of ego, because it feels like it's being attacked. And so it has to resist. But when you love yourself, from this inclusive love, this unconditional love, that you are, I'm glad Anna wrote this, that you already are this. In the depth of your being, that quiet voice that arose out of my little girl that just said, I love you. If any of you ask your heart if it loves, it will immediately say yes, yes. If you ask your true heart if it loves, it'll say yes, because its nature is love. Its essence is love. If you ask your human heart, like your egoic heart, your personal emotional heart, if it loves, it may say, well, I'm kind of grumpy right now. Having a hard time right now. Or I don't love this person because they hurt me. Now, that's the difference between the emotional heart, your true heart, your unconditional heart. Can love someone, literally love someone that your emotional heart hates, which is quite a paradox. But then you have a choice, you have a choice to be the hatred or to be the hugeness. And of course, there's great freedom when you step into the hugeness. She goes on to write, the more we do this, the more we're able to meet others without judgment. Does this seem the way it is? Yes, Anna, you're given the teaching tonight. So yes, of course, you're correct. This is your wisdom coming from your heart. Your heart. It seems that the actual healing of something is a byproduct when love is so unconditional. When something is met so intimately by this love, it seems like it doesn't care what says or happens. It forgives and holds everything without question, even the fact that we fall off the path, we make mistakes, and we often fumble our way through. This inclusiveness seems indescribable because it doesn't seem to have a boundary. It does not have a boundary. This love in your heart, Anna, is the same love in my heart. It's the same love in everyone's heart who's here. This is the love of God being born in you, living through you as you. And when we truly step into oneness, we see this, that my love and your love is one love. And it's huge, it's vibrant, it's endless, it's boundaryless. And so the question, for so many of us is, where are we attached? What are we holding on to? Are we making ourselves small? Now, I can think back to many times in life when I made myself small, where I literally limited my consciousness. Sometimes our egoic nature, especially like when we're angry or we want to be right, we will limit ourselves. My teacher used to say this funny thing. He said, Craig, you can be right or you can be married. It's like you can be right or you can be in love. In love. Which would you rather have? You could be proud or be in love. You can be vengeful or in love. What do you want to be? How do you want to live? From what place here on planet Earth do you want to live? It's a great question to sit with. So thank you, Anna. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your transmission. Anna's having a profound awakening. And out of this awakening is coming this truth. It's universal truth. It's beautiful. Okay, this is a question from Gabriel. He writes, Gabriel in New York City says, Hi Craig, I spent years denying my desires, wishes, and individuality. I was stuck in this massive denial of all is one. Yeah, I know this one too. I did a very similar thing. Oftentimes we can deny our human self. We can even deny the truth of our soul and put everything else before us. He writes, "It's all coming back to me now and it's scaring me. All that suppression is bursting and I have a hard time handling the intensity of the engagement of this coming back. Do you have any tips?" Yeah, big question for you, Gabriel, is the stuff that you denied. If it's just a temporary egoic desire, it's like, yes, just, I don't want to say deny it, but just see it for what it is and let it go. See it for what it is and let it go. A lot of people have this kind of desiring nature when they're shopping. They're just like walking through a store. Before they go into the store, they know they don't need anything in that store. But when they walk in, it's like their desiring mind is basically saying, let's see if there's something here that I don't need. And I'm going to convince myself that I need it, buy it. And if it's just something like that, let it come and go. But if there's true desire in your heart, true desire is a movement of intelligence. Like when God came to Francis and said, build me a church, that's a true desire. Now, sometimes we don't hear the voice of God saying, build me a church. But, for some of us, like for me, I always knew, I was going to be some type of spiritual teacher. If I didn't listen to that voice, I would greatly suffer. That's a true voice. There's two fellows in my Sangha, or in the Sangha, in the community here, and both of them have this desire to teach, to share. And it's a true desire for both of them. And so they should walk in that direction. Should walk in that direction. And so, Gabriel, if it's just a temporary desire, you let it come, you let it go. If it's a true desire, you must act on it. And so the way you discern is you come into your heart, that still, quiet voice. Just ask, is this true? Is this true? And listen for, right away you should hear a yes or a no. A yes or a no. And this yes or no, it'll come with this quiet presence of power. This quiet presence of strength and intelligence. Whereas most egoic desire, it comes with clinginess or attachment. And those, are just lesser desires. You can act them out if they don't cause great karma. And if they do cause great karma, you'll suffer. That's just kind of how desire works. And so the one last thing I'll say, Gabriel, is I'm going to encourage you to look at any themes. Sometimes there's a theme within our desire. Like we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be met fully with love. And sometimes it's very healthy from like a psychological place to honor those desires. Gabriel, if I remember, I think you're a musician. And so if there's a voice within you that wants to sing, sing. You need to listen to that truth. And that's not an egoic thing. That's a soul thing. So there's desires that are on a soul level that must be acted out. They're part of your dharma here on planet Earth. And so I hope that helps. Okay, here's a question from Thane. Hi, Craig. I've suffered with physical illness for most of my life. For long periods of time, it has been excruciating. This has often left me feeling unsupported by life. I imagine a belief in God could be helpful here if I were to put my trust in him. But I'm still agnostic about the nature of God, so trusting him feels a little awkward. I want to make contact with an okayness that transcends the suffering here in the relative world. Any guidance you offer is much appreciated. Yeah, so Thane, I'm going to speak about the second part of your question first. There is an okayness here. The okayness is allowing your pain. It's kind of a brutal thing to say. But like, someone like me, I'm also an individual who's lived with like chronic pain for at least half of my life, which can be brutal. And yes, there is an okayness here that allows it all. If this okayness wasn't here, like if we could resist pain and make it stop, wouldn't that be something? But we can't. The fact that pain can arise within your consciousness is showing you right here, right now, that your consciousness is spacious, is peaceful, is allowing, and is okay. Your consciousness is allowing the pain. If your consciousness had a door that it could shut and keep the pain out, it would do that. But your consciousness is already so completely and totally okay that it allows everything. It allows excruciating chronic pain. The okayness is here, my friend. I'm going to invite you to wake up to this and just notice, oh, there's something here that isn't resisting the pain, that's allowing it. Just like there's something here that's allowing the sound of my voice. There's something here that's allowing whatever thought moves through your consciousness. There's something here that is so utterly okay. It allows the fullness of your life to unfold. I can remember the first time I realized this, it was like shocking. There is something here that is so okay. Like my consciousness is so okay. It allows crazy thoughts to keep me up all night. Imagine how spaciousness your consciousness is, your mind is, to allow thoughts to keep you up all night. Allow how spaciousness, how free your mind is to allow the movement of pain to rage through your body. And if you notice, your consciousness is okay. It's unharmed. Your consciousness outlives every experience you've ever had. Every experience you've ever had. Like there is something here that has outlived every abuse, every panic attack, every experience of a broken heart. Like me, I've probably had like 10 broken hearts in my lifetime. I fall in love very easily and get my heart broken. But at some point, you start to realize my heart's not broken. It's just breaking open into this vast okayness, which is eternally here. It's breaking open in this vast okayness, which is eternally here. Like there's something here, right now, thing, that hears the sound of my voice, that has outlived every experience of pain you've ever had. What is that? What is that? And so I invite you, my friend, to wake up to this, to see this, to let go into this. Now I'm going to respond to the first part of your question. about God. I see God, I'm going to say it this way. This will sound silly, but God is kind of like maple syrup. She makes everything sweeter. Everything sweeter. When you have a connection with God and say you're living in this pain, and when you call upon God, you invite her to come into you. It's like inviting this sweetness to come into hell, to come into suffering, to hold you, to embrace you. To hold you and embrace you. And sometimes I have yogurt, yeah, and I eat like the plain unsweetened yogurt, and sometimes I just take a couple drips of maple syrup into my yogurt. I'm like, oh wow, it makes all the difference in the world. A little bit of sweetness. God is free. She doesn't cost anything. And if I just feel into, the presence of the Divine Mother, specifically for you, Thane, she's telling you she is here. She loves you. Open your heart to her. Don't make it so hard. Let her take your burden. Let her carry you. If you like. If you like. If you try to do it all on your own, it's just a tough road. And it's kind of arrogant, to think that you can do this life by yourself. It's much easier just to be a child and to open your heart and let yourself be held. Much easier. And so, Thane, I'm going to invite you just to open your heart and receive this blessing, receive this love which is here this evening for you. For you. And if you want, then you can join us Wednesday nights when we meditate. We've been doing a lot of work with opening our hearts to God, opening our hearts to grace. And many people have been writing to me saying that even after the meditation, they're feeling this grace pouring into them, this love pouring into them. So it has nothing to do with belief, everything to do with experience. But you're right, trust is the doorway. It comes through humility, like putting down that whatever those agnostic thoughts are. Thoughts that like the mind is in control, or the mind knows, or the mind could figure out. I mean, to me, that is literally a hell world. When your mind puts a door up, a wall between you and God. Surrender that and open your heart to all the love in the universe. It's like you're like walking around here on a desert in planet Earth, and God's like, come, just jump in the water. Jump in the water. Let me nourish you. Let me hold you. Let me take all the pain away. Okay. Here's a question from Alex. Alex in Sweden. Alex writes, Craig, oftentimes I've experienced a hopelessness and fear that I'm not safe in the world. There's often a tension in the back of my heart, and the tension speaks to me sometimes saying, Daddy, don't go. They are going to kill me. Or hold them, referring to the loved ones. I'm trying to comfort this inner child by breathing in and out, putting a hand or two on my heart and telling it I love you, and asking, what do you need? So that's a beautiful step forward. And his next question is, how do I feel safe in this world? So I'm going to invite you, Alex, to comfort that child fully and completely, as long as it takes. And so there's this old saying we have here in the United States of, as oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but I had a good friend of mine, he said, yeah, Craig, I'm just trying to kill it with kindness. And there's a truth to that. You know how you kill the inner child? You love it to death. When you love the inner child to death, he grows up and he feels safe in the world. She feels safe in the world. So your inner child, like the place within you that feels paralyzed, that feels stuck in pain, that feels terrified of life here on planet Earth. Sometimes it's a wound from this lifetime. Sometimes it's a wound from previous lifetimes. A lot of times I'll work with someone and they'll have, this wound, this fear of being burned alive, or, like I had this great wound from a previous lifetime, just being shot in the trenches, at the Battle of the Somme. And just like having just like an utter fear of being shot, being at war. And so I had to love that place within me, love it to death. And so you hold it until it's done crying. And so it's important that you hold it beyond the crying. If I'm, sitting on a Saturday afternoon and I don't have any responsibilities, like I don't have to take care of my little girls or anything, I'll lay on the couch, I'll place a hand on my heart and a hand on my belly and just breathe in. I love you. And as I breathe out, and it's okay. I love you, and it's okay. I love you, and it's okay. Whether I feel wonderful or terrible, I love you, and it's okay. Thich Nhat Hanh has this mantra that he says, I have arrived. I have arrived. And specifically, in response to like, how do I feel safe in the world? Like sometimes our ego is like stuck in just like existential fear, like, just like screaming in terror. Especially like Thane, like when we live in like chronic pain, we get stuck, like our nervous system gets stuck. But when we can just breathe in this mantra, I have arrived. And what does Thich Nhat Hanh mean by I have arrived? He's here in the present moment. He's realizing I am safe. I'm safe. Like this moment is safe. This world is safe. Right here and right now is safe. Thich Nhat Hanh, I think he was, he had some crazy experience of being like a refugee in the Vietnam War. I think someone came and threw a grenade into his little hut. I can't remember exactly how the story went, but either it didn't explode or he wasn't in the hut. But just, it's like he grew up in that kind of world. And I think maybe his mother like put him on a raft with his like maybe his brothers and sisters and like sent them off like, to cross a river or an ocean or a bay or something, to be, to get to their freedom, to their safety. And so he reminds his body, he reminds his, his, that place within him that, got stuck in fear, that was traumatized by life. I have arrived. I have arrived. Like I made it to safety. I made it to safety. And see, this isn't something like you tell your nervous system once. This is something you may tell your nervous system 10,000 times. 10,000 times. So our nervous system is very much like it's like a child. And children need, the way we raise children is we raise them in a developmental way, like we hold their hand from 0 to 18 and sometimes beyond. We hold their hands. We nourish them for 18 plus years. I have arrived. I have arrived. And so you're breathing in love, you're breathing in peace, you're breathing in this feeling of unconditional love, unconditional inclusivity, unconditional safety, that there is something here that is eternally okay, that is awake, that is alive, that outlives everything. There's something here that is nurturing and loving. There's a divine mother that's here that if we open to her and let her do this work, she can hold us while we are holding ourselves. And so there's great support here. If you step into your true nature and love yourself. And then there's great support if we just call upon God to hold us through the process. I like to do both. Step into my innate strength, clarity, and unconditional nature. And also call upon God and say, Mother, will you flood this nature? Because like the Buddha said, life is dukkha, life is hard. Especially if you have children, or if you have a career, or you have crazy parents, or people in your life who are dying, or struggling, or suffering. Life is dukkha. Call upon God to carry you through this difficulty, through this suffering. That's a beautiful question, Alex. And it's been a while, so I hope you're well, my friend. Okay, let's see here. Of course, if anyone else has a question here, let's see. Okay, here's a question from Aaron. Aaron has been writing me. He's been writing me some long emails about the nature of desire, and one of the things that he realized was that the nature of desire is also this movement of Shakti. It's like the nature of desire is God giving birth to herself here on planet Earth, and actually beyond planet Earth. The whole universe is this manifestation of God's desire, God giving birth into form. And what he writes is, Craig, where I came from is that when I'm pretty detached, sometimes I perceive thought and desire as nothing more as movements of Shakti. Yes, this is true. If anyone just stops and looks at thought itself, like if you look at one individual thought, what is a thought? A thought it's simply a movement of energy, a movement of Shakti. It's a movement of light. If you stop a thought, like just like freeze a thought and just look at it, you'll see a thought is Satchidananda. There's some intelligence there. It may be archaic intelligence or animal intelligence, but or it may be, higher order intelligence, but there's some intelligence, this Satchidananda. There's peace, there's spaciousness, there's bliss. Like if you look into a thought, like a thought itself, like as soon as you look into it, you see the emptiness of it, you see the spaciousness of it. Like a thought, of course, is not something solid. It's actually spacious. And this is true actually of anything when you look at it, whether you look at it with an electron microscope or, you see that there's much more space than there is actual matter. If there's any matter to a thought, it's this, this vibration of aliveness, this Shakti. And if you feel into the vibration of aliveness, that's what Ananda is. It's bliss. And so, yes, so this is beautiful. So he's seeing this. But then he goes on to write, I spontaneously dropped into deep contemplation about this yesterday and suddenly experienced all kinds of strong, deep-seated fears. It wasn't the first time this happened lately. Seeing true nature, or essence, or the essence of a subconscious fear is a lot more difficult than seeing thoughts about breakfast as manifestations of bliss. Yes. Yes, this is true. And so when you look at what fear is, fear, just in like on a surface level, we look at fear. Fear has this root. It has a root in our body, in our emotional nature. And emotional nature is simply just like condensed energy. Like emotion is condensed energy. So if one single thought is energy, and then you look at emotion is like a lot of energy condensed together. Like when you feel anger, oftentimes people are like, I feel like I'm going to explode. They feel it in their belly. They feel it in their heart, their chest. They feel it in their back. They feel it throughout their form. And so again, if you sit with anger, if you sit with fear, it's just a lot of energy, my friend. And I assume if there's nothing you need to run from in this moment, if you're not being chased, if you're not in an abusive relationship, if you're not in a war zone, if you just sit and notice what fear is, it's a lot of energy. But when you sit with something courageously and open-heartedly, you begin to notice that this thing that I once thought was really big, that it too is empty, to use the Buddha's words. And by empty, it's spacious. It has spaciousness to it. Like I love to sit with things that are very difficult, like if, there's some kind of gripping in my body, I'll sit with it and say, what is this? Feel into it. As soon as you turn awareness to any emotion, what you'll notice is that emotion oftentimes will temporarily intensify, for like 3 seconds to 2.5 minutes. But if you stay with it, you notice that fear starts to spread out. It starts to empty out. It starts to flow. The nature of emotion is basically energy. And if it's stuck in the body, the energy is telling you it wants to emote, which means it wants to be in motion. When we bring awareness to feelings, especially, if it's like something that's constricted, what you'll notice is if you sit with it long enough, and again, if you just get past the 2-minute mark, you'll notice that energy just starts to flow. It starts to empty out of you, starts to spread out. Like if you have like a real tension in the heart or in the belly, and you start to breathe into it, breathe some more, and breathe some more, and breathe some more. All of a sudden that fist is starting to loosen up and it's starting to flow. And in that flow, my friend, you'll see that quality of bliss again, that quality of spaciousness, and the quality of intelligence. Like oftentimes with fear, like if we have a deeply held fear, oftentimes there's like at the core of that fear is like a deeply held belief of like, I'm not good enough. I can't trust life. I can't trust God. I can't trust my partner. Like I have a good friend and he walks around this feeling they're out to get me. Wherever he goes, they're trying to screw him. He's always saying these things. His truck breaks down and the mechanic's ripping him off. And it's like, is that really what's happening? Or did it just cost more than, the mechanic thought it was going to cost because this is a bigger job than he thought, like, so if you just sit with it, if we sit with, these feelings and breathe deeply and open to them, and like Anna was describing in the beginning, this inclusive love, what you notice is the feelings, they start to move, they start to empty out of you. In fact, oftentimes you'll find this intelligence in the feeling. With fear, like when we open to fear truly, especially if it's existential fear, we start to have the experience of what the Buddha called the groundless ground. It's beautiful. It's thrilling. You know, a lot of times, most human fear, when you face it full on, like head on, and sit with it, it turns into the energy of excitement. Excitement. You know, I have this Triumph motorcycle, and it's a really fast motorcycle. And it's called a Street Fighter. That's the type of bike. It's like a sport bike. When I first got it, I was terrified of it because it was just like way too fast. There's way too much power. I grew up riding dirt bikes, but I never really played around street bikes. But when my dad died, he was a Triumph guy, so I got one just as part of the grieving process. And I hopped on that bike, and I was just terrified of it. I took it for like a lap around my neighborhood. I was really scared. And when I took it, you know, out like on the mountain pass, like right outside my neighborhood, I just opened that throttle up and see how fast it could go. I was like really scared, but then it just turned into pure excitement, just pure thrill. I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love this. 5 minutes ago, I was terrified. And now I just feel like I'm, you know, floating through space at 120 miles an hour, whatever it was. You know, racing uphill, you know, at 9,000, 10,000 feet. And so I don't recommend that, by the way, but it's quite dangerous. But you know, the same is true. Like when we're facing things within us, existential fear. Like when you really open into it, it's thrilling, and you become enlivened. Like your whole body wakes up. You feel the prana just flowing through, you know, all your chakras. You feel so utterly awake. And so I encourage you. See this as a doorway. Don't see it as an obstacle. See it as something thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. And you know, there's this teaching about like like riding motorcycles. Like when you're riding motorcycles, because they're inherently dangerous, like when you're supposed to look in the direction that you want to go. If you're going around a corner too fast, or if you're about to get in a wreck, like don't look at the car you're going to hit. Don't look at the guardrail. Look in the direction you want to go. And what you'll find is like the bike will take you there. If you're driving a car, you're getting ready to get in a wreck, don't just stare at the car you're about to hit. Look to the open space where you want to go. The same is true with meditation. The same is true with, you know, working with these difficult emotions. You sit with it, you breathe into it. Don't go into like the thoughts, because the thoughts will just stop you. Like those are the things you'll wreck into, and they'll take you into like a bottomless pit. Look into the feeling. Notice the space in the feeling. Notice the aliveness of the feeling. Notice the hugeness of the feeling. And what you'll find is that feeling will ride you, like it'll give you a ride into a huger expansion of your own consciousness. You know, a lot of people experience kundalini. They're terrified of it because that's so intense. It's such a rush. But when you just jump into the flow of it and let it flow through you and look to where you want to go, you let it lead you into cosmic consciousness. And it's incredible. It's thrilling. But if you look at just your thoughts, you know, the things that that you'd run into, you can spend the whole time just thinking about how scared you are, which is no way to live. No way to live. So anyways, thank you all so much for joining me again this Sunday evening. I'm going to invite you all to the meditation class on Wednesday nights. You need to register in advance for that, so just make sure you sign up. Give yourself at least 15 minutes to sign up beforehand. It's better to do like a day or two beforehand because you have to get this Zoom link and just so that everyone's there on time and all that. You'll see the details on my website. Also, I'm going to invite you all to my April retreat, April 25th in San Diego. And then the last thing, I want to thank you all for the donations. And if you want to support the Sangha here, just visit my website, craigholiday.com. So thank you all so much for the questions. May peace be with you all, and truly have a wonderful night. And those of you in Australia, have a wonderful morning. Good to see you all. May peace be with you.